We talk a lot about how to run a business or get your mindset right as a leader on the show. But now it's time to talk about a subject many leaders avoid: getting your house and personal finances in order. Let's grow.
Talking about finances is one of the most intimate conversations for people. It goes deep. It brings up our good stuff, our bad stuff, all of it. I'm a very firm believer that everybody should be educated in this because there's a shame around it. If they haven't grown up learning about that, it's never too late. Take the shame off the plate, and today is the first day.
Let's welcome Jessica Scola. She's a financial advisor whose work centers around removing shame from money conversations, providing clarity during life transitions, and helping people make confident decisions. Welcome, Jessica.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me today. Excited to join you.
We had a little fun before this all got started, and I think we're going to include some of our bloopers in future reels. So get ready for that.
You're going to get real with us, guys.
Technology. Well, you work with a few different types of people: high-earning women, founders, dual income families, and everybody's carrying a lot of stuff, whether that's kids, aging parents, anything in between, careers. What inspired you to focus on helping people take control of their personal finances?
So it goes back. I mean, my whole life, I've from a very young age always liked looking at the numbers, like looking at all of that. But it wasn't until about 5 or 6 years ago when life circumstances kind of came at me and made me reevaluate a few things, and also realize, given that I went to school for finance and accounting and my husband's in finance, it was one of those, well, we should know what we're doing. And if we are running into situations, life circumstances where, health issues and certain things like that, then if we bury our head in the sand ever, then what the heck is the rest of the world doing? And so it was kind of an eye-opening experience that kind of catapulted me into wanting to work with, families and individuals in this, I like to call it the sandwich generation, where we're trying to balance 5 million plates, whether it's, entrepreneurs and leaders running teams or their own businesses, to aging parents, to children, to, there's so many different things that we're all trying to manage. And, between mid 30s and mid 50s or 60, you're in your highest income earning years, but you're also managing 10 million times more than you would be at any other stage. So my hope and dream is that I can take a plate or two off of people's, insanity to try to calm down the chaos a little bit.
I kicked the can down the road and buried my head in the sand and dusted it under the rug, whatever you want to call it.
Ostrich.
I ostriched the shit out of personal finances until I had a big, this company sold and now there's this big thing for the first time ever. What do I do? And I was like, I have no idea. Why do you think so many professionals delay any sort of financial planning?
I mean, I keep coming back to it's, how do we educate people before the crisis or the life event? Mm-hmm. Whether that's a change in career, whether that is somebody is, let go, whether that's their company is bought, whether that's they become widows. There's so many different pieces to it. But it's much easier to, when we're stressed and have a lot going on, to focus on everybody else, whether that's the kids, the parents, the significant other, the career, the people on your team. And especially as leaders, I mean, leaders specifically, they have so many systems and they focus on communication and team culture. But the one thing that they rarely talk about is the financial chaos behind the scene of everybody's personal life. So whether it's their own personal life, their team's personal life. And I think that's a piece that people don't want to talk about because they feel uncomfortable. I feel like, especially the generation before, nobody really talked about it. If you had money, you may not have even talked about it because there was just money. And if you didn't have money, then you sure as heck didn't talk about it because there was nothing to talk about. So I'm a very firm believer that everybody should be educated in this. I think it should be a high school course. Every high school should have it because there's a shame around it if they haven't grown up learning about that. And also, think about surgeons. Think about anybody that's really good in their field. Lawyers is another great example. They think they should be able to figure this out. If they're good at what they do, they're like, well, of course I should be able to do this. No, most people don't know how to do it.
Sometimes you need help from somebody who that's their specialty. I'm not going to a surgeon and saying, let me get in there. I've seen enough grays."
Exactly. But even a surgeon doesn't do their own surgery. And I think
Yeah.
even like for me personally, my husband and I finally got our own financial advisor a little while back because it is such an emotional topic and can stir up so much that frankly, I don't think people should be managing it themselves because it's like if you're in a relationship, people are talking either not talking about it or when they do, they're talking different languages. And so if there can be somebody to translate and look at it from above, like as a third party, it kind of gives you the opportunity to look at it more rationally versus emotionally.
A little space. This is like bringing in, I don't know, a bunch of these episodes we've talked about bringing in fractional hires. Like if you're looking to make a change in your company, bring someone out from the outside in to look at it, even if it's temporary, so they can be like, "Hey, this is what's actually true."
Yeah,
So let's talk about some foundation, because there are a few
absolutely.
things that people can take control of in their personal lives right
Yep.
now. What would be the 5 things?
5 things? Okay. So I would say, and especially, if we're talking to leaders, founders, high performers in today's world, it's not just about financial security. And I think that's where a lot of times people will say, oh, I don't, I don't have money, so I don't need a planner. I don't, not yet, not yet, not yet. But there are so many other pieces to the puzzle that people need to consider. And it will also allow people to free up the mental bandwidth that will allow them, especially as leaders, to be able to be the best they can in that spot when they've taken care of these other things. So I would say 5 things. I would say estate planning. And a lot
Mhm.
of people think, oh, I don't need to do that if I don't have a lot of money. That is not true. That is a huge, huge piece. I would say insurance, because being able to reduce risk so you don't have to lead in fear, whether that's in the real world or whether like in your job or whether that's as a parent or significant other. I would say the retirement planning. I think that's where most people automatically think that is what financial advisor planning is all about. But again, that's just only a piece of the puzzle. Having an emergency fund, which is, a buffer that prevents reacting when life happens. And the last thing I would say, having an annual minimum financial review, whether that's with your spouse, whether that's with your financial advisor, and have a team behind you. Meaning, if you have a financial planner or advisor, they should be in contact with your estate attorney, which again, we talked about estate, your insurance person, as well as your CPA for taxes. So that was a long-winded answer, but those were the 5.
We're gonna dive into each of them. So, I don't know if
Okay.
you know this, but I've started being a host on some for the Legal Podcast Network. It's really fun. I
Ooh.
just I ask lawyers questions a few hours a week, and when I ask estate planning and insurance lawyers these questions, I'm like, "Oh my god, I didn't even think about that." The stories they have are nuts, and it's little things that you wouldn't even think, "Oh, that's pretty common."
Mm-hmm.
So let's dive into estate planning.
Okay.
What's one of the biggest misconceptions that there is to this?
When it comes to the estate planning, I think a lot because I'm around this all the time is, oh, well, that's not going to happen to me, or, oh, I don't have to worry about that now. And the most painful experiences for people when it comes to the estate planning and not planning is somebody passes away. Somebody, like, we've all heard the stories where they passed away, they didn't have all their stuff titled properly, and so the spouse couldn't even get to it. Their beneficiaries weren't set up, they didn't have an updated will. They've had 3 kids and only 2 of them are in, so there's just a lot of pieces there. But I would say, and I'm going to go back to leaders for a second, in work, people plan for the unexpected all the time,
Mhm.
except when it comes to their own lives. And so when leaders don't have this, whether they're aware of it or not, it creates this hidden anxiety. Their family is vulnerable. Their team has no, you know, clarity if something were to happen to them. And again, it's not going to happen to me, but I'll prep everybody else. And what leaders need, like And people, everyone in general is a will. If you don't have a
Mhm.
will, that's number one. Healthcare proxies, another huge thing. And a lot of people, if you have children, don't realize that once they turn 18, they need to have one. Because if they go off to college or they're in a sports game and you're not there and they get rushed to the hospital, you can't get anything if they're over 18 unless they've, mhm, yeah.
But they
Ding,
can be
ding,
on your
ding.
insurance till they're 26?
They could be in your trip, but when it comes to health stuff or if like end of life, so that's one nugget there. A durable power of attorney and updating beneficiaries. So I've seen, somebody gets divorced, they get remarried, they never updated the beneficiaries this isn't funny, on their 401k, they pass away and all the money goes to the ex.
Mhm.
Oops.
Yep.
So I would say if people are going to take one piece from that they need to eliminate one of the biggest sources of their silent stress, and that is having a game plan. Plan for the worst and hope for the
I
best.
guess if you are a high performer and you love planning, like you're a type A, this is a secret or a silent little stressor.
It's their own stuff. I mean, my husband and I just redid our estate planning, all of our documents this past summer. And again, this is what I do every single day, dealing with people going through all this. When it comes to your own stuff, it sucks.
Mhm.
So much emotion comes from it. Like all your childhood stuff, like everything just comes in. So I get it, but it's got to be done.
All right, let's go to number 2, insurance.
Okay.
What kinds of insurance should people have in place in their 30s, 40s, 50s?
Insurance. Okay. Nobody likes to look at this either, but reducing risk so that you can lead your family or in work or, an organization, not from fear. And so running it, like for people that run companies, so I feel like you talk to a lot of people that are running companies and are entrepreneurs, you're constantly managing risk as well. Like personal risk is no different. So when you have the right insurance in place, like it's going to help, it prevents fear-based decision making. When we have a life crisis happen, the last thing we want to worry about is all the things that we should have done before because we're emotionally and mentally like not usually in a place where we can properly
Yeah.
deal with that. And then also insurance prevents overworking out of financial insecurity too.
Mm.
And the hidden pressures that kind of take away from your emotional bandwidth. So one of the areas that people should be reviewing are life insurance, disability insurance. That is massively overlooked because if somebody becomes, let's say the breadwinner becomes disabled, you need to take care of them. You need to the expenses there while also covering the income that they were bringing in. If you're not the breadwinner or let's say you're the person that's managing the household or the kids or this and they get hurt, maybe financially they weren't bringing in as much, but it's going to cost a whole lot if they're disabled to fill in for what they were doing and to take care of. So life insurance, disability, umbrella insurance is also huge, especially for entrepreneurs and leaders because you need to make sure on that. And then any business related coverage if it's applicable for people. When your downside, like worst case scenario is protected, you're able to be more collaborative with people, I feel like, and less reactive in those circumstances.
I heard earlier this week that most people just say, "Oh, my company gives me life insurance." And that's not going to be enough, especially if you lose your job, it's gone. Or if something happens to you and then like you get really sick and it
Mhm.
forces you to leave your job cuz you're sick. Now you've
Mhm.
lost that life insurance and now trying to get new life insurance is going to be near impossible
And it's
cuz you're
also,
sick.
people will see $1 million life insurance policy and they're like, that's huge. But especially if they have kids and if they have a mortgage, it's like, are you trying to pay for education? If somebody passes away, how is their spouse and children, do they want to be able to live the same lifestyle? Do they want to, be able to pay off the mortgage right away and not have to worry? Like there's so many pieces. And that's one of the benefits of working with somebody that's in insurance or talking to a financial advisor and like a planner who can literally look at the whole thing and take it into account and have a team kind of work together on that.
Insurance. So we've talked estate planning, insurance. Let's talk retirement planning.
Okay. So for retirement planning, this is more of it's not just a savings plan, it's more a vision exercise for people. And so leaders typically think about the future of everyone else all the time. The team, the customers, the company. but they rarely pause to ask, what is the future I'm building for myself? So it's really, really important to take the time to do this. Because if you have your head in the sand, if you're ostriching, as I like to call it, and you look up 10 years from now, you're going to say, oh crap. And it's never too late. So if you think, oh my God, I should have been doing this. Yeah, maybe, but today's the new day and you can get started. So I think when it comes to, when you're in the workforce or you're a leader and running your own business, are contribution levels aligned with your long-term goals? Meaning not just living today for in the moment, but also planning for the future. Like if I need X amount when I'm in retirement, then how much do I need to put in there now? Like, and Roth versus traditional optimization. So, depending on people's tax brackets, that's why it's important. Planner work with the CPA, work with, so that it's a team to look at everything holistically and big picture, because there's a bunch of strategies for that. HSA, health savings account usage, is another thing through work that people can take advantage of. And then diversification within their investment strategy. So really it's the goal setting. When it comes to the retirement planning, it is the bigger vision, the goal setting, and aligning your actions now so that you can have what you want down the road.
I've interviewed 49 interviews so far this year. Only one person has told me where they wanted to be, like explicitly. And I just interviewed him again yesterday. He's like, in 15 years, I'm going to be on the beach in Bali. I'm going to have this house. And he knew, he had it all planned out. I was like, wow, that's nice. He's got the whole vision. He's working
Without a
towards it.
vision, you're floundering. And that's why, people are great for doing it for their organizations and their companies, but when it comes to their own stuff, they need that leader outside of themselves to help pull it out of them.
Okay. This is all like homework now. Let's dive into emergency fund. What does a healthy emergency fund actually look like?
This is a big one. This is a very, very, very big one. So the emergency fund is the buffer that prevents reactivity in crazy times. So whether that's in your career, whether that's in family life. And so when somebody doesn't have enough of a financial buffer, it shows up in every other area of their life. So in a job or as a leader, as a entrepreneur, if you don't have that buffer, there's probably going to be panic in the current decisions you're making. Versus if somebody said, okay, I'm using the number $100,000 sitting aside. So God forbid something happened, you're going to be more willing to take risks potentially or make different decisions knowing that you have that, versus if you're coming from lack mentality and constantly worrying, oh my gosh, if this doesn't go through, if this deal doesn't close, if this doesn't happen, we're screwed. Again, leading your organization, leading individuals, leading teams, or even being the leader of your family,
Yeah.
you show up differently when there's silent anxiety inside and in panic mode versus safety and security.
Well, I was just reading a Harvard research paper or something, I don't know, article. I'm very eloquent when I get frustrated about these topics. Something from Harvard that said that in these fear-based moments, when you have fear triggered, you can't even see the right decision in front of you.
No.
You'll take the worst, the safer choice, because you're just won't take the right optimal choice just based out of fear.
Yep.
And you leave so much on the table.
Yep. I mean, if you're thinking in businesses, leaders, if they don't have that financial buffer, then they may be taking on clients that aren't the right fit. And in the moment, it's like, okay, well, at least there's money coming in. But if you look long term, if you have the vision, if you have what you want it to look like, then maybe they're not the right fit. If you're making decisions from scarcity, which is what we were talking about, if you're constantly in a state of, I don't have enough, will it be enough? Then you're not making the decisions properly. And holding on to team members out of fear sometimes for people at work, or not investing in growth of the company or for yourself and your retirement because there's a fear of, I just can't lose anything. So a personal safety net stabilizes professional decision making and personal decision making all the time. So I would say 3 to 6 months, depending on your circumstances. And it can, I say out of sight, out of mind. Like if you don't have that built, then it should be coming out every single paycheck into a separate space so that it's building up for you.
Tuck it away. So I started mine. I listened to something that was like, just put like $100 a week.
Doesn't have
When
to be a
it's
lot.
like, wow. Okay. We are at the last of the five, which is annual financial review. What should someone be doing every year as a financial checkup?
Say, and that's a minimum. Annual is
Okay.
a minimum, but it just creates clarity. So every strong company, every individual that is in a good place with this, there's a rhythm to it. So you'll have quarterly reviews. Think of a big company, for instance, and then
Mhm.
we can dial it down to individual. You have quarterly reviews, you have annual planning. Your leaders are very good at being on top of that. Like, we've all been to probably, quarterly meetings or offsites or all that fun stuff. But then, if have they done it themselves? So what I would say is, for yourself, and if you have a team that you've hired to help you with this, whether it's your CPA, whether it's a state you look at every 5 years, but for financial planning, when big life circumstances happen, or on a quarterly or yearly basis, looking at cash flow, investments, reviewing insurance, because when life circumstances happen, you should be updating your insurance, legal documents, which is obviously the estate planning, big upcoming life decisions. If you have a team, make sure you talk to them. They're not going to tell you what you can and can't do, but they hopefully will be able to tell you, here are the options.
Mm.
If you do this, this is, the outcome. If you do this, this could be the outcome. And then aligning it with your personal values. I think that's, at the end of the day, regardless of if you have you're making millions and millions of dollars, if you're making $100,000, the money is not what brings the happiness. It is the planning and living by your life values and feeling fulfilled. So let's say you have a married couple. They ultimately may have the same goal, but if what keeps you up at night is different than what keeps your significant other up at night, it doesn't matter if you get to the end goal if one's miserable in the process. So it's like,
Mm.
how do you intertwine that to live your best life currently, to set yourself up for down the road as well?
What are some of the big questions that keep your clients up at night when they
I
come to
mean,
you?
what if you're looking at a family with, let's say, two kids, if the breadwinner may be thinking, I just have to work, work, work. If I don't keep working, if I don't keep bringing this in, if I don't do this deal, if I don't do that, how's the family going to survive? Meanwhile, the other one may be thinking in the bed next to them, oh my God, they're so stressed all the time. They're not in a good mood. They're not this. If they have a heart attack, none of this even matters. What will I do with the kids if XYZ? If I die, will my kids be okay? All the what if, what if, what if. And so if you could just take the weight off people's shoulders and give them the vision of a plan, people may not be where they want to be financially. However, once they look at it and there are actionable steps, there's safety and security in knowing that you have more control over it.
How is all of this different than buying a phone protection plan?
It's a lot more expensive than if your phone. No, but it's the same thing. It's like, but this is your life you're talking about. This
Yeah.
is, I think what blows my mind is talking about finances is one of the most intimate conversations for people. Like, it goes deep. It brings up childhood stuff. It brings up our good stuff, our bad stuff, all of it. Yet, people will have sex on the first date and not talk about finances, and they're married. Like, they get married without even having any financial conversation. Yet,
I'm blushing.
lack of sex is not necessarily what people get divorced over, but financial stuff or the
Okay.
financial stress that goes into a family.
Wow.
That might have been too much. Sorry. That's just
No,
my.
like it. We've talked about OnlyFans on this show. We've gone AI bots that people are turning into porn, all sorts of stuff. This is actually real examples. All right, we've talked about how the getting everything in order can relieve the stress. What does it also allow you to do in terms of if you wanted to start a new career or wanted to dream bigger or start a business?
I'm so glad you asked that, because a lot of times people think, well, I can't go see a financial planner because I might switch jobs and I don't have enough money and I don't. People can make decisions when they are aware of their situation and having a roadmap of, it may be three different paths, but you know what the paths can be. So there's a clarity and a feeling of, it may not look exactly like I want to leave this job and start my own thing. But if I do that, you know, this is what it will look like. Okay, if you can handle it, then that's great. If you can't, maybe it's okay, I have to work, another couple months, stock everything aside, and then you have power in, okay, now I can do this. So the sooner you pull your head out of the sand and you actually start to look at it, there's an excitement because you have a game plan. I think people are so afraid of, well, what if I make the wrong decision? We're all going to screw up at some point. Like, that's just life. It's, do I have the pieces in place so if something happens, it'll be okay? Because we're all having, crap's happening to all of us. Sorry.
Yeah.
If it hasn't happened yet, it's going to happen at some point.
Buckle up. Whew. Okay. If there's somebody listening who feels a little bit overwhelmed like I do, even though I have some of these things in place, but they still feel a little overwhelmed, what's some place that they can start today that's going to make a difference?
I would say acknowledging that it makes you a little uncomfortable, but celebrate that, because all you have to do is take one step forward. You don't have to fix it all today. We went over a lot of information, but take one step. If you're negative in the money, then you need to start budgeting, because you can't build an emergency fund. You can't do XYZ if you don't have the money to do it. Mm-hmm. But taking that first step forward, and you can take baby steps and go very slow. You can take baby steps and go faster. It's totally up to the individual, but acknowledging it and then finding the right support for you. And I would say people in relationships having financial conversations, and it's uncomfortable. Like money dates. I know that sounds corny, but whether it's once a quarter, like looking at it together.
Yeah. We didn't do it until we've been going out. We've been going steady since 2012, and we didn't start talking money till a year or two ago, which is so silly. But hey, now we do. And I'm like, hey, I like fancy hotels. I'm sorry, I don't want to stay. And I have done that my whole life. I want to stay in a nice hotel. Something as little as that used to terrify the shit out of me to say. And now we can have those conversations. Like, that's something that I care about.
Based on your values and what fills your cup. I mean, for my husband, a lot of it is in the experiences, in the, not necessarily material things. Some people, if they have a nice pair of shoes or a handbag, that will fill their cup and make them confident going out into the world. Other people, it's giving back to charities. Like, they want to spend their money supporting something that they're passionate about. Every single person is different. Kind of looking inward before you can do it as a couple, you got to do it individually. And I think one of the nice things if you're working with somebody is hopefully they're pulling that out of you and asking you questions so that you do think about those things.
Is a financial planner, are you allowed to work with people from any state, or is it like a state to state thing?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
So we'll put how people can find you in the comments.
Yeah, absolutely. And it takes a village. Like, people should have teams. People are very good at outsourcing things in life. Childcare, education, grocery shopping, you name it. But when it comes to the stuff that really that can make a difference in there. I mean, yes, not having to go to the grocery store is nice, but like, that's not going to change my life necessarily, or predict my,
retirement
down the road.
Yeah. Okay. If you could shout one thing from the rooftops to folks who are listening, what would it be?
One thing I would say is it's never too late, and take the shame off the plate. And today is the first day, because when you have financial clarity, regardless of if it looks the way you want, you have the power now to be able to build the life you want now and in the future.
Never too late. I love it. Thank you so much for joining us, Jessica. I know for those of you who are listening and not watching, I was kind of an emotional wreck throughout this, like, shit, there's so much to do. But hey, now we know we've got a checklist. We can go get it done and get a team to help me. Appreciate you, and hope you have a fun holiday season.
Thank you so much for having me on here. If anyone is listening and they want more clarity or just more calm or support around the finances, reach out. We have a network where if we find somebody that could help you in a certain area, I want to be able to just help as many people as possible. And I'd say on LinkedIn, on Instagram, I'm trying to constantly share simple, judgment-free tips for women and leaders, just so we're all carrying a lot. And so, yeah, if anybody wants to talk about anything, you're more than welcome to reach out, and I'd be happy to be a resource.
Excellent. And you can find that in the description below. We'll put her socials and her website. Appreciate you. Have a great rest of your holidays.
You too. Bye.